Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here back with Le Mans 47 interviews. I'm here with Mike, the current second place winner. Hey, Mike, thanks for having me on. Sure, Mike, no problem.
Shut up.
Now, we have some questions for you, Mike. It was a very close finish today here at Le Mans 47 yesterday. Tell us, how do you feel? I know that you didn't win, but how do you feel about how close of a finish that was? You know, I honestly thought that it was a very close finish. You know, obviously I didn't win, which was the unfortunate part. You know, I feel like it was way too close to determine, like, everybody just kind of, went at it. You know, we had no idea what was going to happen, what our own expectations were. We kind of just, was flooring it going down to the finish line, and it got stressful there. Taylor and I, obviously, were neck and neck at the end. I don't know how Mark managed to pull it off, but it was some incredible stuff, and, I'm happy he at least got the win. Was it stressful? Yes. But, we still had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, that's very interesting to hear. A lot of other racer friends were saying, how, some 30 racing was being played in there, and, how some of it was intentional, some of it was unintentional. Tell us, do you think that there was any sort of, like, intentional 30 racing today, or, was it all just, like, an unfortunate mishap? I honestly think a lot of it was just a unfortunate mishap. I don't think any of it was really intentional. I think it was just a lot of pressure in the race, especially with a class like sports. There was just a lot of pressure on everybody, and it got really tense at times because, these are such nimble cars, but they don't have, like,
Put the flashlight away.
Shut the fuck up!
These cars are just super nimble and all, and, they don't handle the best, granted. I mean, they are really nice cars, and, for example, you got my car here, the Sakro, sponsored by there's a lot of sponsorships on this thing. And anyways, it didn't handle the way I'd hoped it to. My manager called me and said, "You need to race with this car," and I was like, okay, because, it wasn't really much of a choice because our selection wasn't huge at the time. But, I'm happy I chose the car, though, because I still had a lot of fun with it. I ended up placing second at the end. It was very close throughout a lot of the race. Ended up maintaining a good lead for a portion with Taylor. So, did I think any of the stuff that happened today was intentional? No. I think all of it really just was an unfortunate mishap. Yeah, that is very interesting to hear. Now, tell us, how do you feel the way your other competitors competed today? Would you like to see anything different going forward from them, or do you all think that they played pretty well today with you? I honestly think that everybody did play a clean race today for the most part. And that, I wouldn't really like to see anything different from them. It's just that they're all good drivers, and if I hate them, I don't want them to see change, their tactics just because of this one class that kind of screwed everybody over. But, I just want to, just everybody to keep playing it cool, everybody just keep having fun with the race, and, that's sometimes all you can really ask for. Well, yes, it did seem like you were having a lot of fun today. Now, just one last question before we wrap up this interview with you. We know currently that Le Mans 48 is currently in the works, and there's a new route being set and everything, and new racers that might be coming in, and new classes that might be coming in too. Tell us, how excited are you for that? Oh man, I cannot express my excitement enough how excited I am for the future of Le Mans. I've been hearing a lot about the new track and a lot of new stuff that's coming in. The new route is always exciting because I guess, like my other opponents have said, that the track is kind of getting a little overdue at this point, but that's okay because, we've been doing it for so long, and I just hope somebody gets to Triple Crown soon, whether it be me, which is almost impossible, or anybody else in this group. I just hope that we get to move on. It doesn't mean that I hate Le Mans 47, granted, but I just want to see a good, clean next version of Le Mans, and I'm just really excited to see what it has to offer. Mike, that's all really excellent to hear. We look forward to seeing what you have to offer in the next version of Le Mans. So, thank you so much again for coming on the show. This is Mike from Channel 69. Back to you in the studio, guys.
Cock.
That was so fucking stupid.
Who has a bomb? I hear like a beeping sound.
It's the remotes.
Yeah, it's the remotes.
Beep, beep, what do you think they are, boy? Well, you want a bomb? I give you a bomb.
Oh, no. He's talking about the transporter from fucking Albany Schwartzman.
What?
Oh my God.
Blow it up.
I'm not gonna shoot you. I'm just gonna aim the light at your
Signal
car.
jammer destroyed. 1 out of 50. What?
I dare someone to shoot the sticky bombs.
I dare somebody to shoot him right now.
It ain't gonna blow anything. Ha!
You're fun.
Suffer!
Good evening, everybody. Mike here from Channel 69 News. I'm here with one of today's racers, Aya. Glad to have you on the show, Aya.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Alright, well, we got a couple questions to ask you. We just finished up another Le Mans 47, the 6th running of the Le Mans 47 now, featuring sports class and your lovely LG here.
It's the 7th.
7th, excuse me. Yes, the 7th running of the Le Mans. Tell us, how was your experience this time around?
It was pretty good. It's a little messy this time. A lot of messes going on today. A lot of mess ups and crashes and spin outs, and I think it's just the nature of the sports class. A lot of these cars are not really that stable. But the class, like the sports classics, where you take it slow, or supercars who are very controlled, these cars are just out of control.
Now now you would say that the entire sports class was the problem here today. Why that you think that it was so sloppy? You think the sports class was why?
I think the sports class is just there's no unlike the super class where there seems to be you have more control over those cars. I think these cars, in terms of their handling, is just not that good.
Okay.
They favor power over traction. Some cars have traction, don't get me wrong, but most of these cars can't turn well. Some of the braking is not that good. And not only, some of these cars are just big cars, like my LG here. It's pretty heavy. So trying to control these things on the road is not that easy. All of these cars are not easy to control, so that's we saw a lot of different crashes today.
We're all watching the replays and we're all seeing the crashes and the mess ups. Now, tell us, there were a couple instances where you got into some pretty tight spots with some other racers. Tell us, how do you feel about how your other racers competed with you today?
I think it was very fair for the most part. I mean, you can only do so much to avoid crashes. Sometimes they're just inevitable. I didn't know that some of those crashes, I could have avoided if I didn't try to go after some of those moves. But, obviously there are some times when people just, they can't help the nature, what I'm trying to say is, it's hard to control your cars sometimes. When someone's coming up on your rear, it's hard to move around and stuff like that. So I don't blame all the drivers for that. I know everyone makes mistakes, and everyone, every once in a while you mess up, and that's fine. I apologize. I forgive everyone that's been out there in that race. Everyone had amazing driving, so I think everyone did a fantastic job today.
Well, it's good that you support your fellow racers. Even though today there were some moments of it seemed to be unclean. Excuse me, racing. Now tell us, Mark was actually the first one to win today. Tell us, how do you feel about his victory?
I think it's, for Mark himself, it's great. This is the first race. He's the manager of this whole thing, and he designed the track, and it's surprising. He's been in 4th, 5th, 6th place for pretty much every other race, and this is the first race he's won. I'm very happy for him. I do know this is one of the most intense races because of the 3 people that have double crowns, and the other 3 people, that had one win or 0 wins. So it's, it's pretty tight right now that we have a lot of people with crowns now. And if Mark or Mike can get a win, if Mark and Jelly can get a win.
We know who you mean.
Yeah,
well,
they can get wins.
That is pretty interesting because there was a lot of pressure on the track. Now,
yeah.
We just have one last question for you. Le Mans 48 is currently under construction, and you have at least 2 or 3 people who have double crowns already. Tell us, how do you feel about the future of Le Mans?
I feel like it's looking pretty good for the most part. Hopefully the track and quality there is a lot better. I hope we get more classes. I think some more unique classes, maybe like coupes and sedans, and maybe even some off-road classes would be pretty cool. We'll have to see. Again, that's just the nature of the race. We got to talk to the manager and talk to him about what's going on with that. But I'm very excited for the future, for all the opportunities that racers have. Possibly more racers can enter the league, we'll have more competition. We'll see. I know changes, will come through, and change is good. Some people fear change. I don't. I open it with I'm open to it. So all for it. I'm excited for the future.
All right, well, it was a pleasure watching you race today, and a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. All right, well, that does it for the interview with Aya. Back to you in the studio, guys. Good evening again, everybody. Mike here, back reporting with the Le Mans 47 racers of this 7th round of the Le Mans 47 endurance race. I'm here tonight with Kerr. Kerr, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Kerr, we have a lot to talk about with multiple racers, and you are definitely one of them. Tell us, how was today's race for you? What was your experience like?
Well, today's race was okay. It was an okay race. I know I didn't win the race, but there was sometimes I caught up, got the lead, and then sometimes I lost the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to congratulate the other fellow drivers out there as well. I think they did a fantastic job in today's race. And yeah.
Nice, very good. Now, there have been talks after the race between other people of higher staff and racers themselves, talking about some dirty plays that went on during the actual race. Tell us, how do you feel about these dirty plays that went on during the race today?
Well, I think it's like kind of unfair in a way. I know they caught back up, but there's sometimes that people can't call back up. I mean, look at me in the race. There's a point that I couldn't call up, but hey, I called back up eventually. So, yeah.
So, cutting to that, how do you feel about the class that was used today, the sports? A lot of other racers like Aya were complaining about how the sports were not really fit for the track of Le Mans 47. Tell us, how do you feel about the sports class on this particular track?
Well, I love the sports class on the track. But the problem is, like my car, for example, couldn't brake well. It couldn't brake, but I love the sports class overall. I think it's good.
Well, it's sort of a mixed opinions then. A lot of other racers, prefer either the sports classic because of, well, like when we're going to bring back to Aya's example, he enjoyed the sports classic because of, how controlled it was, and the same thing with the supers. Well, he felt the sport was more wild. And did you have any instances where you felt things were getting just a little out of control today?
Well, I had some, but not really much. And yeah, that's really about it.
All right.
Well,
we noticed today that Mark got his first ever Le Mans win after not being in good contention for most of the race, but he ended up holding the win at the very end. Tell us, how do you feel about your opponent's win?
Well, I'm glad that he won. It was about time he won. So I want to congratulate the driver more out there. Yeah, I think he did excellent.
Yeah, he definitely did pull off a really fantastic move at the end there. Now, we just have one last question for you. Right now, we have a couple racers with double crowns, and once you get the triple crown, it means that Le Mans 47 track is officially going to be retired, and Le Mans 48 is currently under construction. Now, how excited are you for the future of Le Mans and what the new track has to offer?
Well, I think the new track has to offer a lot. I really have no other details about the track at this moment. But I think it's time to retire Le Mans 47 and move on to Le Mans 48. I think it's about time.
About time. You think that the Le Mans 47 track is just a little bit overdone?
No, I think the track's good. I think the track's good, but I'm ready for a different variety to come. All
right, well, Kurt, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We're looking forward to see what you have to offer in the future of Le Mans, and hopefully we get to see more good racing from you.
All right, thank you for having me on.
All right, you're welcome. All right, that does it for this interview with Kurt. Back to you in the studio, guys. Good evening, everybody. Back here from Channel 69. It's Mike here. We're here with the winner of this round of the Le Mans 47. We're here with Mark. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, how could we not invite you? You have just won this 7th round of Le Mans 47. Tell us, how does that win feel?
It was a pretty tough win. It was a pretty tough win. I say that finally, in about a couple times, I finally had the first win. It feels good, but it also doesn't at the same time due to what
Right.
happened at the end.
Yeah, that was actually a funny thing. You came out at the very last minute and pulled off that amazing win. How much pressure was there at the end? It must have been a lot.
It was very intense. I'm not gonna lie. Thought I was actually gonna have a panic attack or have
Right.
anxiety or something. It's just I felt like my heart was about to explode.
Right. And that pulling off at the end there was really something special. Now, you were not in much contention for most of the race. There were a couple of points where you pulled a good lead, but you ended up falling short. How was your experience with that? You know, being in the middle and sort of behind for most of the race, but then at the last moment, and need to build up that skill and that courage to pull off a win.
Well, in all honesty, I didn't really test this car a lot on the track, so therefore I had a lot of difficulties when it comes to driving it, since it is a front-wheel drive. But for the win, I don't think I would have won if I didn't get hit from behind. 'Cause when I went into the corner, I hit the barrier, and as soon as I came back out, Justin over there seemed to hit me from behind, so I don't think I would have been able to win that if it wasn't for him.
That's right.
So I apologized for that unexpected occurrence.
Yeah, that was a lot of things. A lot of other racers and other staff members are talking about today how, you know, because of the sports class, they thought the race was a lot messier and there were a lot more mishaps happening on the track. Do you think that's the case, or do you think it was just like, you know, mostly the driver's fault? Rest of the driver's fault this time, that the race was a little more sloppy.
In my opinion, I think it was the cars. This time. They seem to have more power in them than when they go around corners, and I guess that seems to be a problem for whenever someone drives them. At one point, the car seems to take too much and just start heading out of nowhere. In my opinion, I think it's the cars. I don't think it's the drivers. I think they tried their very hardest to control it and keep it balanced.
Yeah, that seems to be the case too. A lot of people so far have been blaming it on the cars. Now, just one last, or maybe just two more questions. How do you feel about your competitors today and how they did and how you fared against them?
I say it was very intense. I say they brought one hell of a fight to the race. I hope that in the future we will still be able to compete like this. I just hope for the best.
All right. Well, that's all anybody can ever hope. Now, just one last question before we let you go, Mr. Champion. Currently in the works is the track for Le Mans 48, and one of the 2 or 3 Double Crown winners needs one more race before the 47 track is officially retired. Tell us, how excited are you for the future of Le Mans and the upcoming Le Mans 48 track?
Well, at the moment, my team is currently building Le Mans 48. As far as I know, they've officially got the track planned out. They're just trying to put down some barriers, as well as we know. And I'm safe to say that Le Mans 48 will probably be ready up and go in a week or so.
That's pretty good for most of that. Well, it seems like you are excited, and we're hoping to see what Le Mans 48 has to offer. Well, congratulations again, Mark, and thank you so much for coming on the show. Congratulations on the win. And without further ado, that does it for the interview with our champion here. Back to you in the studio, guys. Here's some more bad shit.
That's
Get
enough.
out of here.
Okay, great. Good.
Fucking
All
get
right,
out of here.
we get it.
Get out. Get the fuck out. All right, I'm done.
Come on.
I'm done. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here, Mike, with Channel 69, back with some more coverage of the Le Mans 47 7th round we're here with Mr. Taylor. Taylor, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Taylor, it was a very close finish yesterday with the Le Mans 47. Tell us, how do you feel your chances were for the whole race? You had a pretty big lead for most of it.
Yeah, for most of it, I did kind of hold the lead for quite a while, but during the end of that, I was kind of a bit ticked off from the sudden hit to my left side. Now,
Yeah.
it probably wasn't intentional, but I still was kind of ticked off from the sudden bang to my door.
Yeah, no, I feel like anybody
I did get a scratch and a dent, but it's nothing the mechanic can't fix.
That's true. There was a lot of other drivers and complainers were complaining about the use of quote unquote dirty racing during the race. Tell us, how do you feel about that? You think there was like any like real big dirty racing in it, or do you think it was just all mistakes and mishaps?
There was a slight bit of dirty racing throughout the 10 laps of this race. It is kind of unfair, but then again, most of the vehicles in this race were kind of slimmer than others, especially that GTR over there next to the BB9. I feel like that if everyone had the same style of, or the same width of vehicle, probably wouldn't there be like a smaller chance of dirty racing. However, it just depended on the drivers and the corners.
Yes, a lot of people will beg to agree and disagree, but moving on from that, we'd like to talk about now how that finish went. You, Mike, and what was it? Mark had a very close photo finish at the end, but Mark ended up being the one prevailing. Tell us, how do you feel about such a very tense and big finish like that?
Well, I'm glad that Mark got the win. I guess it was well deserved, kinda. But then again, if he wasn't struck, as I apparently am told, if he wasn't struck by Justin, another driver, who was adherently behind him, he probably wouldn't have a chance to even catch up with me nor Mike to claim first place, and it would probably either be me or Mike in first place.
Yeah.
But it all came up to chance, and that's what happened.
So, how do you feel about the fact that, well, how did you feel your experience was with this Le Mans? This was round 7 of 47. How do you feel you did in this race? You feel like you did good, you did bad? Is there stuff you think you could work on?
Well, I was kind of contemplating which vehicle I should go with. I was kind of thinking of going back with my previous selection when doing the sports category. But then my manager called me and told me to try this AMG GT. And frankly, it was a better choice because it's quicker, it can pick up speed very quickly, and frankly, it was one of the better choices.
Yes, clearly, because you did hold the lead for most of the race, and there are some places where, you fall back behind and then quickly take the lead. So overall, I think everybody would agree that you did a great job today. Now, everybody's talking about, we had an interview with Mark a little while ago about the future of Le Mans and how the Le Mans 48 track is still in the works. Tell us, how are you excited for what the future of Le Mans has to offer with the new track and possibly the new classes and everything new Le Mans has to offer with the new track coming up?
Honestly, I would kind of like to see what is in store for Le Mans 48, but as Kurt said, it's time to retire 47. The track is kind of getting old. Honestly, I'm glad that there were some changes made to the track because the old route was kind of getting boring and a bit too tense for some drivers. But the new changes made to the track is honestly a tad bit better. Now,
all right.
with the sports category, as I said, it all depends on the driver. It also depends on the vehicle being made for the choice. It also depends on how the corners are being taken.
Right.
Honestly, there's a lot of mixed opinions about it. The sports category is honestly one of my favorites. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't here for Super, so I couldn't tell you how it was for Super. But for
fair.
Sports Classic, Muscle, and Sports, honestly, I feel like those are my three favorite categories.
Okay, well, definitely looking forward to see what you have to offer in the future in Le Mans, and your opinions are definitely noted by the rest of the staff at Le Mans and also your other racers. And yeah, we're looking forward to see what you have to offer in the future of Le Mans. So, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And this is Mike from Channel 69. Back to you in the studio, guys. It's literally gonna look like this. Hold on. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mike here at Channel 69 with Mike. Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
Mike, you're gonna have to move. You have to move to the left and the right when you're giving the question and interview.
Yeah, you have to go.
Kirk, get out of the shot!
Mike here, Channel 69 News.
Good evening, everybody. Mike here from Channel 69 with one last interview today. Here we have Justin. Justin, thank you for coming on the show this evening.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Now, there's a lot of talk between all 5 of your different competitors today about a lot of different stuff that's going on. We talk about multiple different things. And the first thing we want to ask you is that, how do you feel yesterday's race went?
Well, Mike, I'm just going to say yesterday's race was, I believe, the most chaotic out of any of the races that I have endured throughout these weeks. Week 7 is, it's the first race of week 7. It just wasn't the race. It was not our day. It was not our race to go from start to finish. We thought we had a good car. I don't know what happened during the race. In practice, I thought we did pretty good. The car handled and performed very well, but unfortunately, during this race, complications occurred. Kind of also on the driver's side of things, the driver's fault for driving. Everyone's driving was kind of if yes and no, good, bad. It's all that. Kind of had an impact on the car and also just the track itself. This car wasn't originally it wasn't originally a high performance car in our first race with this vehicle, and there were no parts upgrades. Everything was completely stock. It's like how we just bought it right off the lot and didn't do anything to it. And then after that race, we put in all of our stuff, and just my opinion, I feel like we've just overdone the car, and I don't think the car could perform in this level with these parts. So I'm just gonna say that the race was. It could have been better, but what happened is what happened, as you saw.
Well, that is kind of unfortunate here because you say you were talking to some others and how your team put a lot of work into this car. Well, you still performed good for the most part. Now, the next thing we want to ask you is about your fellow competitors. Do you feel today that there was any sort of kind of dirty racing, and was it intentional, was it not, or was it just all one big unfortunate mishap?
Well, according to where I was in positioning on the track majority of the time, yes and no. There were times where there was some slight intentional contact between drivers, and then there was others that were obviously not intentional and then spinning them off the track, and they waited for them in the back, which was a good sportsmanship move on their end. But the sports category, I just believe overall, is the most hectic. It's kind of a mix between the super and muscle, where the cars are loose at the same time they're very fast. So It depends on how the driver can handle their cars. So I'll just say that for that question.
Okay. Now we just want to talk about now how the finish at the finish line today. Unfortunately, you weren't there at the finish line, and there was a lot of talk about how you actually helped with Mark's win. How do you feel the fact that what you did on that last corner coming off the ramp helped somebody else win this race where it possibly could have been you?
Well, so here's what happened. So going into the 8th lap, halfway through, I got hit, and then I got shunted off, and then that put me in the back of the pack, and I had to work my way back to the front. Coming towards the final lap, I caught up with everybody, and I was just waiting patiently, keeping my line, sticking around with the group, not screwing anybody up. And then heading into the finale, where the couple of corners were remaining, we went into the final corner. I don't know what happened with Mark's car. He got stiff going into the corner. I don't know what happened to his car. He hit the wall, and then I ended up in that lane, and unfortunately I hit him, which projected him to keep his pace while it slowed me down, and I was unable to catch up with the group and possibly even won the race and maybe get the 3rd win and move on from this track. But unfortunately, the events that occurred, so I do have to say, yeah, if it wasn't for me, Mark definitely would have not won that race, or if gotten to top 3. But as you saw in the replay, that's exactly what happened. I hit him. He was in my lane. I hit him. I get sent back. But if things could have ended differently, but what happened happened.
Well, yeah, that is an unfortunate part that, you unintentionally did help with his win, but, a win is a win still. Now, we just have one last question for you, because, you say that, all your drivers, all your competitors did well today. Everybody seemed like, the race went pretty well today, despite the controversy over the class and some of the skills of the drivers. Now, we know for a fact that Le Mans 48 is currently under construction, and there are a few new things that are willing to be implemented. There are a few new changes that are being made, a completely new course. Are you excited at all for what the future of Le Mans and Le Mans 48 has to offer?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I can't wait to hear the official announcements from our manager to announce that there will be more tracks coming very soon. This track is I would agree with my fellow racers that this track is a little outdated, and I'm ready to move on from this course. But that doesn't happen until one of us gets 3 wins. Three of us so far have 2 wins, so maybe next week, the next race, we can pull that off, either one of us, and finally move off from this track. But I'm overall excited to hear what the manager's got in store for any other categories of cars and tracks all over Los Santos.
All right, well, Justin, I'd just like to say thank you for coming on the show as our final interview today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure.
All right. Well, this does it for all the new interviews for the Le Mans 47 Round 7. That does it for everything. I'd like to thank all of our guests for coming on today and yesterday and yada, yada, yada and such. And that does it for a final wrap-up of Le Mans 47 Round 7. Back to you in the studio, guys.
Cool.